Hey, Darren, thanks so much for doing this. Thank you for your time and your willingness to kind of share your cancer story. Just to start out, just wanted to learn a little bit more about you, what you like to do, family, hobbies, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I'm happy to share everything basically. I'm an Aussie, as you can probably tell by the accent. I'm actually living in Paris. I've been there for the last 5 years. Before that, I was in Dubai. A bit about me is, well, for the last 20 odd years, I've been a commercial diver in the offshore oil and gas until the cancer.
And obviously, today we are talking about cancer, and I apologize for everything you've had to go through. I know it can't be easy. Um, Take us back to the very beginning. Were there warning signs? What year were you diagnosed? Kind of how everything started.
I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think anything major would come out of it. Went in to see the gastroenterologist that did it. He said they sent off, I think, 13 biopsies,
Wow.
something like that. All came back negative. But in his, so, I thought, oh, good, great. But it looks like cancer, he said. There was, they couldn't get past. It was, the tumour was basically blocking the colon. They couldn't get past with colonoscopy. So I did another one. They wanted to do another one about 10 days later, which I did another one. And yeah, he confirmed then that it was cancer. So yeah, that was the first diagnosis, I guess. The proper diagnosis was when they operated to take that tumour out.
So I guess a two-part question. When you found out, you finally got that clarification that it was cancer, your initial reactions, and then when they did tell you that, did they give you any type of stage information? Had it spread? Did you know anything at that time?
At that time, okay. So first of all, as I said, he, my wife was in there with me, and he said, he said, it looks like cancer, and I didn't hear him first of all. I thought, well, I did hear him. I just what? As I was shocked, of course. He said the biopsies turned out, came back negative, but it looks like cancer, and so that just sat me straight back in the seat, and my wife as well. We definitely weren't expecting that. When they operated, about 3 weeks later, I think it was, the surgeon took out 40 centimetres of my colon and 19 lymph nodes. When I saw him afterwards, he said it was a large invasive tumour. It had metastasised into my peritoneum and a couple other little areas there, a bit on the liver, and yeah, that's when they made me stage 4.
With the initial surgery, what was that like in the early days, and then what treatment did you have, following that initial surgery?
I'm very lucky to be in France. The health system here is amazing. So when after the initial surgery and they took out they discovered what was there, sent all the biopsies off and that sort of thing. I met with an oncologist. My oncologist walked in there with a list of questions. Didn't have to ask any. He laid it all out for me already, so I knew what treatment I was going to get. Um, so I had the operation. Then I was scheduled to have 6 rounds of FOLFOX chemotherapy and Erbitux. I dropped the Folfox and I went on with Erbitux. So I had another three sessions of Erbitux. Now, when the oncologist sat down with me, first of all, he said, laid out the plan, 6 rounds, then there'd be another little operation and maybe some hot chemo, he said, which I didn't understand really fully what that meant. And then followed by that, there'd be another 6 rounds of, back then he was planning the Folfox and Erbitux. So had the 4 rounds of Folfox Erbitux, 3 rounds of just Erbitux, and then I was coming up to this operation, and he gave me the name of it, and I googled it. Before that, I thought it's going to be just a small operation, maybe even just a laparoscopy, just a bit of a clean out. So I had absolutely no idea. It was a shock when I found out about CRS and HIPEC. In that surgery, they took out another 40 centimetres of small intestine, small lymph nodes, my gallbladder, appendix, the alma mater, which is part of the stomach lining. Got rid of all the tumours they could. They basically separated the liver so I could get in behind that and get a bit. Had to sew that back in. And then I had another 6 rounds of Erbitux. But halfway through that, I ended up with sepsis. So I ended up back in hospital. And in all honesty, the sepsis probably went closer to killing me than the cancer actually did. I was probably 24 hours away, I don't know. But I couldn't walk. I was delirious. And so that put me back in hospital. Side effects to the chemo. Chemo is, of course I Googled it and everyone knows about it and heard about it. The oncologist said from starters that I wouldn't lose my hair, and I didn't. It did go a lot coarser, and I ended up with like old man eyebrows, which I never had before. The hair on my arms got coarser, and my legs. With the chemo, fatigue, nausea, and they're probably the 2 biggest ones there. Erbitux is one of the main side effects of that is this nasty acne rash. So I had it all over my body basically, up my nose, in my ears, through my hair. Honestly, I would have preferred to have lost my hair. It was uncomfortable, it got sore, and it just looked awful. With the 2 operations, because I had the resection of my colon as well as the small intestines, plus the gallbladder taken out, all digestive, part of the digestive system. Side effects there is urgent need to go to the toilet. I haven't, there's a few times when I didn't make it, and I think reading online, that's a fairly common experience for people such as myself. That still happens. I've learned to manage it a lot better. You've got that. Often a lack of appetite. I often now force myself to eat, basically. I know I've got to eat, so I do. It's not because I'm hungry, but just because I have to. From the surgery, a lot of people that watching this might know, but with the CRS, they open you up from just below the ribs to down towards the pubic region. It's a big incision, and when I was on holidays, September this year, I was swimming at before I went on holidays, I just reached up to get a suitcase off the top of the wardrobe, and I felt a tweak in my guts, and I thought, ooh, that hurt. I said it out loud actually, but didn't think anything of it. There was nothing to see, nothing to feel. Went away on holidays a few days later, and I was actually quite ill on the plane going over. I'd had a recurrence. So this is 6 months after my chemo and everything finished. I'd had 2 one good scan, I think, and then after 6 months I had a recurrence of the original tumour down near the bladder. I forgot to mention that. One thing at a time. One thing at a time.
Yeah, no, well, and it's hard to do one thing at a time just because you have gone through so much. You know, people obviously any type of cancer diagnosis, everybody's going to have their own their battle, and their mindset is different for each person. When you talk about your story, you have that initial diagnosis, stage 4 metastatic. Then you have the surgery, then you start doing chemo, then you get sick from the chemo to the point where you have to go back into the hospital. Then you have a second surgery, which is uncomfortable. Then you get into sepsis, and now you have the recurrence. How many, for a normal person, that's a lot of blows. What makes you continue moving forward? What makes you want to continue treatment and continue living like that?
When I first got diagnosed, I was of the mindset. So I've had 2 knee replacements, and so the cancer I was looking at, it is in a similar vein that it's something that's wrong with my body or broken with my body. We just need to get it out there and get it fixed. From that, as I said, it's a lot of knocks. I now have what I was telling the story before, reaching up to a suitcase, went swimming, and drying myself off at home. I noticed a big bulge in my stomach. I now have 2 hernias. I went back to see the surgeon, see if he could fix it, and he won't touch it until I've had at least 12 months of clean scans, because the risk of stirring up any dormant cancer cells. Along that as well, I'm actually suffering at the moment. With that first operation, the tumour was stuck on the bladder. It was wrapped around the ureter, the tube going from the kidney to the bladder, and the wall of the alma mater and other bits there. The ureter was damaged, so I've got a stent in going from the kidney to the bladder. Again, they can fix that, but they wouldn't. The surgeon originally said he wouldn't go in before 12 months to fix it, because the stomach needs that long to repair itself after the CRS hypac. So just actually a week ago yesterday, I went in to get, I think it's the 5th time I've had it changed, the kidney stent. It's every 3 months. And so that's for a long time, that's what gave me the most grief since I finished my treatment. There's a lot of, you get pain in the kidney, there's a lot of bleeding. There's currently a lot of bleeding when I go to the toilet, urinate. There's a sudden urge to urinate at times, and a bit of incontinence. So that has stopped me now. That and the hernias, I actually qualified for disabled over here now. I used to be one of the biggest, strongest guys in the gym, but I can't do that anymore. It's totally, yeah. So I've had to re-evaluate who I am, what I am, yeah.
How do you do that, and how do you remain optimistic that there can be an end to this? And have you found anything? It sounded like the gym was kind of one of those outlets for you, that you could burn off steam, but that's what made you feel good. Have you found anything, not to replace that, but something that can help throughout this entire journey?
When I first started out, I decided that there's got to be some sort of silver lining to this disease. So the first one was I didn't work for 16 months. Even though I felt awful and still often feel awful, that time, it's the longest time I'd had with my wife, just her and I. So that was a bit of a silver lining, I guess. I hadn't spent that much time with her before. So that was a gift in a way. And at the same time, when I first started out, again, I wanted to try to get some sort of positive out of it. So I became self-appointed advocate, I guess, for proactive health monitoring, based on my experience of putting it off and ignoring it and that sort of stuff. And again, I really didn't have any real symptoms leading up to it. So I now, on forums like Facebook and Instagram, and all my friends, I nag them all the time. If there's testing available, go and get tested. And what I guess helps me along the journey is I've actually received multiple messages from people saying that because of my prompting and urging, they've gone and got tested and they found various prostate cancer and other things, and they've actually gone and got treated. I potentially could have saved lives there. I just got a message again today from an old school friend saying similar. So, that's, I guess, that's, I enjoy doing that. I want to do that. I want to help people. I don't want to see anyone else, go through what I go through.
Yeah. Somebody may hear this and you would just said that, you would put this off and kind of taking some of the blame of maybe allowing it to grow as it did. But, towards the very beginning of our conversation, you had said that this is something that you had kind of experienced in your 30s and that turned out to be hemorrhoids. So for, a normal person, if it happened to them again 15, 20 years ago, if they've already had it once, then they might think, this might be just that and then kind of toss it off. How did that, I guess, complicate the process of how do you know when it's not hemorrhoids and it's something else versus something that you've already had gone through when you were 30?
I don't think you can. I don't think you do. As I said, I had irregular bleeding and I hadn't had any for quite a while. When I was getting bleeding, I would use some hemorrhoid suppositories, and within a day that bleeding had stopped. So that's all signs point to hemorrhoids. Whether that was the whatever polyps up there at the time bleeding, it could have been, I don't know. And that's the thing. In my previous job as a sat dive, it's a very physical job. You have to do a medical every year, quite a significant medical, but they don't test for cancer or anything like that. I didn't really have any real symptoms, so that's why I'm saying if you can, if they're offering it, go and get tested. And for the girls too, the girl tests, the pap smears and the breast and the mammograms, that sort of stuff. You can't tell. Well, I couldn't anyway, in my experience.
A couple minutes ago, you said something about the old you versus the new you and trying to find out who you are today. Have you found that out? What does you've mentioned a few of the things that you deal with on a daily basis, but on an average day today, what does that look like for you?
I guess I've changed my mindset. I now look at it as a chronic disease. I see, after the recurrence, and that's sort of what really got me changing my mindset, is that I think what's going to happen is that I'm going to be treated, something will pop up, they'll treat it, hopefully that'll be sorted for a while, and I'll go along fine until the next one pops up, and then they'll treat it until one day they're not going to be able to treat it. I don't know how long in advance that's going to be. It's something obviously my wife and I talk about. She now often says, time is much more important, or much more, we have to think of time.
Are you currently going through treatment?
No, I finished my last, so with the recurrence, the tumour had actually attached itself to a major blood vessel, so they couldn't operate. So I had 5 weeks of daily radiation, and that finished end of September.
So what is, what's the current protocol? Are you going for scans every certain number of...
Every 3 months. So I'm due for a scan. So after the radiation finished, about a month after, they did a scan, because apparently with radiation, the tumour can continue to shrink, can even die after, for up to about 3 months afterwards. So I did an MRI. Was it an MRI or a PET scan? I forget which one it was. I've had too many of them.
Yeah.
And it found that the tumour had shrunk quite significantly, but it was still there. The oncologist said this type of tumour didn't have any tumour markers, so they can't really tell whether it's waiting or whether it's actually dead or anything else. So, yeah. So it's basically a wait and watch. My next scan is coming up towards the end of January. So at the moment, and I think all cancer patients probably have the same problem, is just that anxiety about any new pain, and I've had quite a bit of pain recently, different pains to what I've had, especially in the abdominal area, and so that plays with your head pretty well full time. But is this the one? Is it back? Is this the one that's going to take me out?
No.
I've just got to wait for another month now, and then I'll find out, I guess.
In terms of the impact and the side effect for radiation versus what you went through with chemo versus what you went through with surgery, did you find that a lot of the symptoms were similar? Did one differ vastly from the other?
Chemo was by far the hardest. Fatigue, nausea, and just general feeling bad. Once I dropped that off and just continued on the Erbitux, a lot of those symptoms diminished but didn't go away. But then I had the big rash as well. With the radiation, it was actually pretty good. I felt a bit of fatigue, and I did lose my appetite a bit because it was down around the bladder. I had some, it affected the bladder a bit, so I had some issues around there. But that righted itself a few weeks after radiation had finished. So radiation was, in my case anyway, it was a lot easier than the others.
You had mentioned, currently being in France and kind of the health system there, what was available to you. At any point, did any medical staff, talk to you about the treatments, whether it was, one of the new ones that had just been approved, whether they had done anything, groundbreaking to try and tackle this?
No, they hadn't. No, there was I don't think anything new. As I said, I had the HIPEC, the hot chemo put inside. I, from some of the support groups I've seen, that's, some people still consider that experimental, but I think it's been going for about 20 years now. So no, it was the standard drugs, I think, and I think my oncologist was happy to use them and see how it went, and it did go well. It on the scans, and when they actually opened me up for the CRS, he said it looked like I'd had almost a total response to the chemo. So
I wanted to share, two images, kind of a before and an after of treatment from somebody that had been diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and just kind of get your initial reactions to, that before image and the after one. So let me know if you can see my screen.
yes.
So obviously this is the before image. What are your reactions to seeing that, a rather ugly looking tumor, stage 3 colon cancer?
Yeah, it's ugly looking. I didn't go into much. I did, obviously I saw my own, some of my own images. To me, it doesn't affect the head. It doesn't affect anything. It's, if I didn't know, if you didn't tell me what it was, I probably wouldn't know what it was looking at it.
And then this is the, that before image, and then that after image of, a difference of 7 weeks with this particular type of treatment, immunotherapy. Does that, give you hope of what may be to come next year or in 2 years that may be able to kind of, you don't have to deal with those recurrences at that point.
For sure, for sure. I did read somewhere one time someone saying that, with the recurrences and with this sort of thing, is that basically they're just being treated and just being prolonged until hopefully one day one of these new ones will be the wonder cure.
Do you have those types of conversations with your wife of, just battling until that next breakthrough, and hopefully that breakthrough is kind of the end of the journey there?
Yeah, probably not in relation to breakthroughs. We have had a conversation, but it's not a regular conversation. I have full faith in my oncologist. I think he's quite experienced, and my surgeon as well. My surgeon, as I said, with my surgeon as well, before I went into big surgery, we went in with a big long list of questions we didn't have to ask Skinny because he put it all out. He drew diagrams and everything for us. I'm happy with, I guess, the treatments that they're using, and it appears to have a good result despite the recurrence.
Yeah. One of the things that you had mentioned earlier is your desire to help other people, or your desire to kind of share your message that something similar may not have to happen to somebody else. For somebody in your situation, it kind of seemed like the world was your oyster. You were in really great shape. You were doing a job that you loved. You had your wife. You were traveling the world. What would be your overall message to people that may be watching, whether this is, they're dealing with colorectal cancer or, a whole different slew of different cancers?
My overall message is to don't be afraid to put it out there. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it. They keep it very private, and I guess it's up to the individual. I went out from starters with a different mindset that I want to put it out there. I want to raise awareness. I want to stop other people from going through this. But as a benefit of that, or as a side effect of that, is that I was surprised at the overwhelming support I had, and the message was very humbling. Like, I didn't realise that I was thought of so fondly, I guess, that so many people actually cared about me. And that it raises us, especially when you're down or going through treatment. It raises your spirits. So if you can, put it out there, and you'll do some good, and you'll be surprised that
As we kind of wrap up, curious, throughout this entire experience and all those blows that you have taken, have you learned anything about yourself that you didn't know before?
Yes. So all my life, basically, I've had depression. Since I was a kid, basically growing up as teenagers, suicidal ideation. When this happened, or when I got diagnosed, I didn't get treated for that for a long time either. I just pushed all the emotions, everything way down deep, and ignore them until that's a ticking time bomb. You can't do that.
Yeah.
I finally got treated for that as well. Seems to be the story of my life. But I don't want to die. After so many years of thinking actively about doing it and even trying it, I don't want to die.
Well, I really appreciate your openness to sharing your story. There are many people out there that are feel ashamed or feel embarrassed, especially when you're talking about colorectal cancer, of not really wanting to talk about it. And you had brought up the mental health aspect of how isolating cancer can actually be, and how that can make those issues even worse. And at the end of the day, I think hearing your story and kind of hearing your perspective and what you've gone through, and that you continue to just want to kind of power through it, is pretty inspiring.
Thank you. There's one thing I'd like to add, if I can.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole process, And one of the things I think of is that it's probably actually harder for the carers than the patient themselves. Feeling helpless, seeing your loved ones, suffer and not being able to do anything about it, both physically and seeing them physically and emotionally suffer. It must be so hard. And I've always said that I think they've got the hardest job. We're just bouncing along, you know, being knocked wall to wall. Um, and there's a lot of physical aspects to us, what we're going through. But them, it's all emotional, it's all mental, and it's so hard.
I'm assuming that, hopefully there is a day that all this is behind you. Is there that desire to go back to work, to get back in the gym, to get back in that shape and then get in the water again?
Certainly is. I've actually approached a personal trainer and talked to him about my physical limitations these days. He's written me a little program that I can start doing. As I said, a week ago I had the stent changed, so I'm still suffering from that a bit. The kidney's very sore. I can't really do much. But once that settles down, I plan to start exercising that again. Again, I've got to change my mindset. Used to be lifting the biggest weights in the gym. Now I'm lifting kid-sized weights or using bands. But it's a start, and I know I'm never going to be the biggest bloke again, but maybe I can tame myself up, hopefully. So
I hope
I plan to do that.
I hope so too, and I hope that you do get that opportunity. Again, I really wanted to thank you for your time today, your willingness to kind of share this story, and hopefully help some other people out there.
Thank you. I hope I can help. Yeah.